Welcome to TANG, the Advocate News Group Radio. We are your hosts, Mayra Garcia
and Andrew Whedon.
Let's see what happened at Contra Costa College this week.
You are listening to the Advocast, and this is the weekly bulletin.
You are now listening to the Advocast, the student voice of CCC.
Rick Ramos will be leaving Contra Costa College after 30 years of service to take a position at Merritt College as the Dean of Allied Health and Public Safety. Ramos is a former Berkeley police officer and is currently the chairperson of Public Safety at CCC and a professor of Administration of Justice. Ramos says this isn't the last we've seen of him, as he plans to run for the Contra Costa County Board of Directors in the next 5 years.
Creative writing classes canceled this fall semester due to a lack of enrollment. Contra Costa College English professor Jeffrey Michaels and Ben Jaham are teaming up to offer 2 new courses for the spring semester. The revamped English 293H course, also known as the Creative Writing course, which previously met on Tuesdays, will now be offered in a hybrid form. They are designing it together with the first half focused in poetry and the second half creative writing. He said it is about blending the two together. This is the first time both professors work together and say they are focused on balancing out the structures for the courses offered. Michael said all skills learned through poetry and creative writing are highly transferable in every profession and teaches empathy and self-expression, which are both pathways to wisdom. Jahan said he does not recall teaching a creative class where people did not connect with each other, and said society needs both honesty and unity, which is something the creative writing course will teach.
This is Tony Gohilde. I just came back from talking to Annie Van Blaricom about the silent pottery auction held today at Fireside Hall. Annie is a volunteer for the art department and a worker for the ceramics department, led by Mary Law and Nathan Ring. Annie has 10 years of experience with pottery making, and she holds the silent auction every semester. I asked Annie why she hosts pottery events such as empty bowls and silent auctions.
This is a fundraiser. In the fall, near National World Hunger Day, when we do our Empty Bowls project, that is a fundraiser for the Richmond Rescue Mission to help eliminate food insecurity. And so people come and have a bowl of soup and then take the bowl home. Pottery is in a way, maybe to me, it's a graciousness, because you can take this vessel and you make it out of clay, right, and fire it, but it's the space inside that's serving, and so you're serving the other person. So I think pottery, to me, it's a sense of graciousness.
According to the Women in Engineering Society, only 9% of the engineering women workforce are women, which is why the lack of women engineering today has inspired a club on campus to aid and help inspire the women who do show interest in the field today. Women Advancing in Via Engineering and Science, also known as WAVES, was created on the Contra Costa College campus to help close the gap between men and women working in the field. Chemical engineering major Aidi Guzman said she recalls being the only woman in her physics class, and said we got to put into lab groups to answer questions for an assignment, and said her group members would constantly question her knowledge to see if she actually knew the material or not. Being constantly challenged, she said she had to prove herself just for the simple fact that she was a woman. Although WAVES is a program intended to lure women engineers in the right direction, men are encouraged to join too. The National Domestic Hotline receives an average of 22,000 calls per month. That is 264,000 calls a year, reporting domestic violence. The psychological, emotional, and physical effects of domestic violence can result in post-traumatic stress disorder, including flashback, nightmares, severe anxiety, and uncontrollable thoughts. According to the Joyful Heart Foundation, oftentimes the abuse takes the blame for what is done to them, but effects of trauma varies from person to person. Everyone's response to stress, age, and frequency and severity of the abuse is different. CCC sociology professor Brandy Walker said, when children witness domestic violence, it impacts their development, in which case can allow the trauma play in different ways, such as either repeating the cycle by allowing themselves to be battered or being the batterer. Victims of domestic violence should be aware of the various phases and have safety plans in the event of domestic violence, and should be ready to leave the situation. Dean of Equality and Institutional Effectiveness, Mayra Padilla, said, "The problem is not with women leaving the situation, but the need to also understand the choices that are available to them, and not being afraid of walking towards the options that do exist." The city of San Pablo had its annual tree lighting at the City Hall Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m., with well over 400 people in attendance. Most, if not all, of those that worked on the event were volunteers or city officials. The volunteers were members of the community as well as those who worked for the city of San Pablo. Families with children, couples, and new members of the community enjoyed free hot cocoa and popcorn, which was passed out by volunteer staff. Cecilia Valdez, mayor of San Pablo City Council members, and other city officials greeted everyone before lighting of the tree. City Council member Paul Morris said the event is getting bigger and bigger each year, and said events like this are important for bringing the community together. In Opinion News this week, opinion editor Robert Clinton talks about his experience when first learning and listening to pop star Taylor Swift. As she stood on stage, innocently, slim, and blonde, delivering her acceptance speech at the 2009 MTV Video Music Awards, an irate Kanye West beguarded his way on stage and uttered a handful of words that live on in infamy. "Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you, and I'ma let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. One of the best videos of all time," he said. With her country pop musical roots, her artistry has soared completely under the radar. Aside from commercial use or background noise at sporting events, one can honestly say such a song has never been heard. Or according to opinion reporter Clinton. Now, with the release of her chart-topping 6th studio album, it is fair to say many have been intrigued. Already attaining platinum status, the project released November 10th and remains top in the Billboard's Top 200 for its third week in a row. Despite being unavailable on streaming services until this past Friday, Billboard.com reports Swift is the first female artist since Adele's accomplished the feat to spend at least 3 straight weeks on Billboard Top 200 chart. Industrialized nations are stepping back on climate leadership by women, indigenous people, and developing nations. They bear unwilling to pay reparations for the social and environmental damage caused by industrial greed. However, nationally determined contributions, or NDC, that were set forward as part of the Paris Agreement are the commitments of individual nations to decrease carbon emissions. Many of these commitments rely on financial instruments, such as carbon trading, to bring about the carbon reductions. The problem with carbon trading is that the system allows industries to continue to pollute in exchange for purchasing carbon offsets, which represent projects intended to reduce carbon elsewhere.
Teachers, students, and staff members were welcomed to a special event in the Fireside Hall, where LGBTQ+ community members were awarded for their outstanding work, care, and dedication towards queer students on campus.
But the whole purpose is to change it not just for me, but for everyone. So Miguel Alvarez said, this is good that we're doing this, but there's a lot more work that we need to do. So that's what we're striving for.
Stay strong, be who you want to be, and appreciate those around you. That's it.
This is Mayra Garcia reporting for The Advocate.
As of Wednesday, 10,900 Dreamers lost their ability to work because their DACA-issued work permit expired, and each day, 1,400 more will lose their ability to work. The proposed Clean Dream Act can be a permanent solution that would protect more than 2 million undocumented immigrants living in the United States by setting a path to citizenship. Here is Contra Costa College student Ricardo Sanchez, who was brought to the United States at a young age and benefited from DACA.
My parents didn't bring me to this country to work, in a restaurant, in the fields, in construction. Not saying those jobs are bad, but they brought me to this country because it's a better opportunity that they have in our own country.
This is Roxana Amparo with The Advocate.
Thank you, Roxana. I certainly hope that this will help all of the students affected by this. With that, we wrap up this episode of The Plug.
Now we sit with reporter Dennis Perez in an interview with a special guest for the weekly Q&A.
I asked the Black Student Union President Elijah Morgan some questions about his experiences last year on the HBCU tours. The application period is over and few people applied. So for them, the few, this is what they can expect.
HBCU, what's it stand for? HBCU stands for Historically Black Colleges, and I want to say any college that stood for improving African Americans before 1949. I want to say I'm not sure if I'm too correct, but that's the time period.
This is a tour of like how many colleges?
This year I'm not sure exactly how many, but I want to say last year it was 7, so I'm gonna guess it's around the same time, same 7.
And last year you went to all of them?
Yes.
And how was that?
It was good. I actually liked it. There were some of them that were kind of actually long, but it's like you get to tour almost the whole campus and see exactly like where you would be staying, where the classes are at, how campus life is. And the people on campus were actually nice, so it's not like get away from me, like I'm just trying to get the schooling done, but it's like you actually get that community feeling, so that's always good.
Now, when you went, did you learn anything new about culture, about like these colleges, or like Black progress in education?
For one of them I did. For North Carolina A&T, there was the 4-student movement, or the 4-student movement, who actually started the first sit-ins. That was actually new to me. That's something that I actually kind of learned about. And then I want to say 2 or 3 miles down the block, they actually took us to where they actually sat down and showed us all the seats. So like that's kind of interesting to know, interesting to learn.
Was it free?
Yes, everything was free. The only thing that wasn't free was like, of course, the stuff we wanted to buy from the school, as far as like the apparel.
How long did it take you to kind of like see the colleges one by one?
I want to say it took almost up to 2 hours, 2.5 hours, only because certain schools like North Carolina A&T, Norfolk, they wanted to show us different departments as far as the engineering department, business departments, and Howard too. Howard was big. And basically we ate lunch there, so that was actually 3 hours we stood there, but they kind of showed us the whole gist of it in a nutshell, basically.
Do you think you would feel more comfortable in like a college that's mostly Black, or like has some history pertaining to Black people?
I would, only because it'll have me think deeper about who I am and where I actually come from. But as long as the education is there, as people, like as far as staff is motivating you to do better for yourself, I feel like that's just the main point of going. When you get to campus, you'll see that there's not all Black people, but there's a mixture of everything. But it's a small percentage, but you do see other people there.
This is Xavier Johnson with the Sports Report. The women's basketball team took 4th place in last weekend's Comet Classic tournament in the Contra Costa College gym. 8 teams competed in this 3-day tournament, with College of the Siskiyou coming out as victors. In the first round of the tournament, the Comets defeated Folsom Lake College 71-62. Actually, Folsom Lake's assistant coach is Paul DeBolt, who stepped down as Comet coach after 30 years. In the revenge game, the Comets dominated defensively and on the boards. Comets had the rebounding advantage 62-37. 3 Comets notched double-digit rebounds while not a single player on Folsom Lake did. Forward Keani Williams led in rebounding with 24, 12 being offensive rebounds. The Comets battled with and lost to Los Angeles Harbor College in an overtime thriller, losing by a score of 76-69. Comets struggled in that game offensively despite a strong defensive performance. The women's basketball team heads to Shasta College for the San Mateo tournament, then start league play December 20th against Laney College.
This is Efren Valdez with the men's basketball coverage. In the annual Golden Gate Classic at City College of San Francisco this past weekend, the men's basketball team placed second, falling short to the host in a blowout. Overall, the Comets impressed in the first 2 games by beating Skyline College handedly. In the semifinal game against the state men's basketball powerhouse College of the Sequoias, the Comets impressed by outscoring them by 12 points after trailing 29-34 at halftime. In that game, guard Kamari Wright led the scoring with 22 points, and forward Matthew Murray had 11 points and 10 rebounds to lead the Comets to the important win. In the championship game against the Rams, the Comets were outscored 62-26 in the first half. That eventually led to them losing 59-105. I spoke to men's basketball coach Miguel Johnson earlier, and he told me that he was happy with the team and how they played, but explained that the loss against San Francisco was something that happens to young teams.
Hey everyone, I'm Michael Santone.
And I'm Anthony Kinney, and we are the host of Verbal Rhapsody, here to bring you your weather update.
I've always wanted to do this. On December 7th, you can expect clear skies with a high of 64. Clouds are expected to move in during the evening hours with an overnight low of 40 degrees.
Friday, December 8th will be partly cloudy with morning lows in the 50s. Daytime highs are expected to reach mid-60s as clouds stick around for the majority of the afternoon. In the evening hours, temperatures will gradually drop to an expected 47 degrees by 11 p.m. So if you plan to go out Friday night, be sure to pack a jacket.
On Saturday, December 9th, clouds will stick around throughout the day with morning lows in the mid-40s and afternoon highs in the low 60s. Same advisory as my friend Anthony here. If you plan to go out on Saturday night, please bring a jacket, some mittens, a scarf, a beanie.
Clouds are expected to dissipate, revealing a sunny Sunday, December 10th, with the highs of 64 and a low of 62 expected Sunday night. And that's our weekly forecast. Don't forget to check out Mike and I's weekly podcast, Verbal Rhapsody, on cccadvocate.com and SoundCloud.
Bye.
And this concludes this week's edition of Tang, the Advocates News Group Radio. Be sure to tune in next time.
Subscribe and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Snapchat.
Questions, concerns, or emotional reactions, shoot us an email at accent.theadvocate@gmail.com.